So this morning, we're happy to have our CEO and co-founder of the Chamber to talk to us about Is the Trend Your Friend? And Trevor, over to you on that note.
All right, thank goodness you reminded me of what the topic is, because I don't have any friends, so I go out looking for trends that I can turn into my friends. But I think what I'll do is just give you an indication of what my daily life is like. Let's see if I can share a screen. Somewhere along the lines, I will try and find for you one of my browser windows. Which clearly I can't find because I've got 48 browser windows open. So I'm not going to be able to share that because we will get back. Okay, so I'm not going to bring those up because it's going to take time for me to go through all those browser windows. But I think in terms of is the trend your friend, where I'm spending a lot of my time at the moment is analyzing what economists and people who seem to be in the know in the financial sectors around the world are actually thinking about the current times. And if I could give you a description of the type of browser windows that I have open and that I've been working on, because I've only been back for about 3 odd weeks, I think. And what are we now? The first week in February is gone. In a couple of weeks, 2021 will be gone. Things are going so fast that we've got to try and work out where do we position ourselves. So a couple of the browser windows that I've got open go back to these particular times right now in the world, global economy after COVID-19 and all the things that we experienced in 2020. How do they compare back to the 1920s? So I went back and had a look at a couple of charts, and what you can see is in terms of economic cycles, you can see price to earnings ratios all the way back from 19. So do yourself a favor, go and Google a comparison between the 1920s through to the 2020s. And that will give you an indication of what happened post the First World War, then the Second World War, because the question we should be asking is, I mean, COVID-19 is a disaster for a great number of people. Having said that, those people that have got free cash and wealth and money around it certainly hasn't been a disaster. Their incomes have just ballooned through the roof. So trying to work out, okay, what are these trends that we got to start thinking about over the next 10 years, and what have we got to be doing right now? And to me, I love the charts and I love working with the trends. And some of them, if you go and do a comparison, you'll see that it doesn't matter how big the disaster, there's always a recovery, but there are always people who lose out big time, and there are always the few who make big money out of these big swings. Right now, you'll see that our price to earnings ratios on the US markets are pretty high. I think we're looking at an average PE ratio of around 33 price to earnings ratios across the average of all companies, which is pretty high. But if you really go back and have a look at what happened from early 1920s to 1929, when the big crash came, these PE ratios went from high to super high. So it says that maybe we're at a time right now where the markets are going to, and they're boiling and frothing right now, but they're really going to boil and froth, and big things are going to happen. And it's almost as though the picture I get in my mind is of 2 different retail stores. We've got a choice as to which retail store we want to go into. The one store has got thousands of people lining up to try and get into that store, and the other store is empty. But they're the only 2 stores that you can choose. Which one do you want to go into? And I think it's basic human nature to turn around and say, well, what the hell's going on at that store where thousands of people are lining up trying to get in there, and we tend to ignore the one where there are no people around. So I think this is the trend, your friend, is a topic that reminds me, I'm a counter trend kind of guy. Some people just call me full of tripe because I don't tend to go where the crowds go. But right now I'm having to turn around to myself and saying, well, look, if you're in business, you want to make money from the people who are prepared to spend. And despite what we tend to see in the marketplace, at the moment we saw that liquidations in South Africa, I think there were over 1,000 business liquidations over the last 3 months in South Africa. If you go back and have a look at the trends for the last 25 odd years, because we get some pretty good statistics there, just go and do 25 years business liquidations, you'll see they have just meandered somewhere between 150 to about 400 per month business liquidations, no major change. But you talk to people, especially those people that are sitting in that store that have got no one queued up there, they're crying at the moment because they are bonded to the hilt. They are using every last cent to try and get some business on the go. People who are in business and not seeing the money coming in as a result of what's happening with COVID are absolutely crying. And one of the things that we should pick up from that particular social trend, especially here in South Africa, is try and keep yourself out of debt, especially in a frothy, boiling market, because those consumers can disappear overnight. So one of the things I like to add into that is, and I like to share with our team, is how do we get into business to maximize upside and minimize downside? And for me, what 2020 taught us, and there's Ivan. I have to take my cap off to Ivan every time I actually see him, because when COVID hit us, and these groups of people who were coming to meetings, business networking meetings, to have a cup of coffee and talk business and maybe sell a little widget every now and then. The moment COVID hit last year, people's businesses were annihilated. You talk to Dawn and Dawn Coulson, Dawn Olivier, who she will tell you the conference industry and anyone that is involved in, and there's Jasper as well, anyone in conferencing, these businesses were closed overnight, where business is always tough. Imagine what it's like to have no opportunity of business or people come into you. Have a look at the travel industry right now. Have a look at just all of those people that are involved in conferencing, even speakers, public speakers, their business dried up absolutely overnight. So what do you do in an environment like this, especially when people are turning around and saying, no, this is not the only virus that's going to be coming along. There are going to be new variants. There are going to be many more new things happening in the world. What is the trend? What is the social trend? Well, for me, I want to make the social trend my friend. I don't want to get into overheads. I love the idea that technology has suddenly, this COVID-19 has pushed this remote work from home, just like this technology, way ahead of its time. It would have taken us 10 years to actually be doing this thing in South Africa. It took us about 10 hours. And there was Ivan turning around, and when we all turned around and said, okay, now what do we do? We've got no one to talk to here locally in Johannesburg. So within, I think it was about 10 days, we started talking to people around the world. Immediately, our little focus here around a little geographic location became the entire world. And to wrap up that, and most of you will know, all of a sudden, Ivan started becoming a host. We did Wisdom's Chats on a daily basis, little groups like this, then going out to the Wisdom's Global Summit, then the trade, virtual trade fair, both for Africa and for global. And then through to, and I can see Jasper's going to step in and kick me off because he wants people to have a chat soon. But by the end of the year, while I was away in the bush, sorry about that, Ivan, he was busy producing, and I think he produced about 2,887 websites for the BBX show, which effectively reaches 90,000 businesses. So what do you do? We also talked about the one thing that really fascinates me with these economists overseas is this cryptocurrency and digital currencies and how they've been set up. And I'm looking at the argument between Nouriel Roubini of the New York University and Max Kaiser, who seems to be his arch enemy. He has a program on Russia Today. And the one is such a superior, no, they are great minds. So Nouriel Roubini going to that one, and Max Kaiser, his arch nemesis. It's almost as though these two guys hate each other. But it's fantastic to see them pitting themselves against each other. They both believe that we are entering into a period of frothy, bubbling. In fact, they are perhaps, Max Kaiser is calling for the collapse of the dollar and all currencies and all that sort of thing. I can't really see that because I don't think world economies allow that to happen. And Nouriel Roubini says, no, this is going to happen over 10 odd years. The other guy says almost 10 weeks. But there's a difference between these two guys. The one guy has a pile of Bitcoin in his back pocket, and by a pile, I'm talking in the tens of thousands to 50 thousands of these things. And I don't know if anyone has seen what the latest value of Bitcoin is. I think it's around, what did I see? About $39,300 or dollars per Bitcoin. And I remember just 10 years ago, people were giving away Bitcoin if you were playing games. And anyone who managed to collect a couple of Bitcoin, these things are now in Rand terms, they're well over R500,000 per Bitcoin. And it's quite interesting, the discussions on the go. And what really stimulated my thinking as to, hey, in my 67th year here, where do I want to be playing for the next 10 years? Well, I see youngsters. I've got a 12-year-old over here who came to me and said, hey, look at this thing called GameStop, because we were in New York. I didn't even see the store, but she was interested in it. And she said, look at these GameStop people. They're buying these shares, they're going through the roof. And she's telling me about GameStop in New York, and that all these youngsters have come together and they're out to actually take on the banks. What is this telling us about social trends? I think what's happening in the marketplace right now is protect your downside, maximize your upside. And in Wisdom's Chats, we've been talking about this thing. If you don't have a ticket, you can't enjoy the ride. This guy, Max Kaiser, didn't just have a ticket. He's got in the 10s, 20s, 30s, 40, 50,000 tickets in the form of Bitcoins, which the people are turning around and saying, tell us when you're a trillionaire, because they believe he's now a billionaire just based on his Bitcoin valuation. And how many Bitcoin have I got? Squat. My daughter's got. But I've got squat. I don't know how many of you have got. And now you've got to start having a look at, well, for goodness sake, when will this thing crash? And when it does crash, should I climb into this thing? So what are the trends doing? Where is all the money going? And perhaps part of these social trends, what I just want to throw in here in my thinking is that I think why I believe we've got a period, a good period of a couple of years, and that we will almost follow exactly the same pattern as the 1920s to 1929, that I think this pot is going to boil more and more and more. Do you start going chasing after the market long after it has run, or do you wait for the market crash 1929? Do we wait another 10 years to get involved? And my view is that technology and the way youngsters and millennials and Gen Zers are, they're just having a ball. There's a ton of money around. I think people are armed with a ton of money, and they're almost going to be treating these markets and stock markets like a casino. They're just playing. Everyone is playing with gay abandon, and they throw their money there. Tons of people are going to be burnt, but tons of people are going to make plenty of money. There are Bitcoin billionaires that have been made. A guy that I love, Gary Vaynerchuk. I remember him when I started watching him about 3-4 years ago, when I was sharing with chamber members, hey, we've got to be on these technologies. He, at that stage, I can't remember, he might have said that he had 10 years ago had purchased about $25,000 to $40,000 of Bitcoin, which was probably $1 per Bitcoin. Well, I'd hate to know how much he's worth right now. And he's the type of guy who actually kept those Bitcoin. And these people are turning around and saying, hey, this $39,000 is nothing per Bitcoin. This thing's heading to $100,000. What? And I haven't got one. So what are these social trends telling us? Social trends are telling me I'm excited about the future, but my goodness, whose boat do we get onto? And who do we follow? So I'm just leaving you with those thoughts. Do I know where these markets are going to go? I haven't got a clue, but it's blooming exciting at the moment to be alive.
Thanks, Trevor. So the big topic was, is the trend your friend? And I think the short answer on that is only if you can predict the trend and position yourself to be in front of the trend. And that then leaves the question, what are the trends? So in the short spaces that Trevor had, he only could touch on a few things. But from where you sit in your perspective, and having gone into pre-COVID with a certain mindset on the economy, and then COVID hit all of us, just let's hear from each of you. What are you seeing as trends around you, and maybe in your specific industry? And then towards the end, we'll see what we can summarize. And just a welcome there to Funeka, a new face that I don't remember seeing on the platform yet. So Funeka, why don't you let's start with you. Just give us a quick introduction of who you are and how did you get to know about Business Chat? And then what is your opinion on what are some emerging trends that we need to be aware of?
Good morning, Jasper, and everybody else. I think Ivan, the other colleagues do know a bit about me, though you and I have not really collided in any of the sessions, because lately I've been tuning in on Tuesday mornings when I'm not busy, and didn't find anybody in the room because maybe I've been missing some of the communication. I have business based in Johannesburg. Our office is in Rivonia. We are in facilities management services and training, as well as business support services, where we have a couple of SMMEs that we support on some of the problems or challenges that they face, and also to coach and mentor them. But what brings the money into our company is the work we do for some of the shopping malls around, where we do maintenance work. We are facilities managers, but because we are a small company, you then go cap in hand to ask for work from competitors who are already having these contracts in big establishments. And so instead of saying, I want to replace you one day, you then say, we can provide some of the solutions that you're looking for. And also because we understand the industry, then the services that we've been offering, whatever we've done in terms of repair work, whether it's glass or steel, aluminium, whether it's paving or potholes, we've done splendid work to a point where the clients go and look for their favorable friends or service providers, but run back to us and say, we've been looking for somebody to replace this and nobody is able to find this product. Please help. And when they're in a corner and we smile silently say, yes, what were you thinking? Because we pride ourselves on doing 100% and more, so that we do not cut corners and the clients come back to us. But
thank you, Funeka. Sorry.
Pardon?
No, thank you very much. Just you remind me of something I left out right in the beginning. What we would like to achieve on this platform is not necessarily a full introduction of everybody's business. That's why we invite everybody just to put...
Well, how did I know about this platform?
Just put all your contact details in the side room chat, and then we would love to contact with each other offline afterwards. But we would like to use the topic per se to say, let's just hear your opinion, and especially in yours
about the trends.
The trend in your industry. What trends are you seeing? And I mean, I think you alluded to that with the shopping mall. And the sort of stuff that you do. So we are interested to find out what trends do you see, so that I'm not in your industry can say, okay, when something like that comes up, I can learn from your experience in that trend. So if you can maybe just take us to the trend and
yes,
your opinion on it.
Unfortunately for us, because it's physical infrastructure and a lot of people are working from home, as you've highlighted before, and Trevor. So there's been less space that has been needed by the tenants, and shops are closing. So we've designed other products that we're offering currently to the clients in terms of on an ICT platform. But also there's certain business opportunities that one has seen in the rural areas. I'm currently in the bush and at home in the Eastern Cape, though it's not a bush really. And there's 3 programs that I'm implementing here, but we'll talk more about those in another time. So I do not hog this space. Thank you.
Thanks, Funeka. Let's hear there from Stella in your industry, and I know you're more than just the marriage, well, not marriage counseling, but what you're doing, but also because all of us are not just our job. We are, we have wide interests. So I think what is of importance for us in this platform is, what are we looking at right now? What are we studying? What industries are we following? And what trends are we seeing that we think might affect us personally? So share your personal thing, and then let's put it all together and see what we come up with at the end of it. Stella?
Thank you, Jasper. For me, the trend that I'm seeing and that I'm also following is what we all, I think, were exposed more and more since COVID came, is with the networking. I've just on the networking side, I've realized the importance of networking, and to get yourself out there, to have exposure to the market, and to educate other people about the services that you can offer without hard selling. to build the relationships. I think that is so important. I've seen it now just in the complex. I joined a walking group of ladies, and I've seen the benefit of, you know, you walking in the morning, the one says, oh, you know what, I need, my roof is leaking, I can't get it fixed up. And that then sparks, oh, I know somebody in the roofing or the maintenance area, I've got a connection there. And so you mix, you link the people. So especially in my field where I am a lot exposed to other networks within the complex where I stay. And then, you know, you've got different networks. Like, for instance, I've got a network with mediators. Then I've got a network with my walking buddies. I've got a network in the complex. I've got a network with FCCC. Then I've joined another networking a platform as well. And I think that is the way that it's going. I've realized since I started my business that I cannot do it on my own. I think previously people were very much working in silos, and going forward, I think it's so critical to have that relationships and networks going for you. And at the end of the day, it's not just for yourself, you know. When you do the networking, it's a give and take, you know. You refer businesses to other people, and so, you know, you're building trust, and then the same business will come your way. So yeah, so that's just my 2 cents on networking, which I think which I've been exposed to more the last year, and I think is a trend that is going to stay with us. Thanks.
Thanks, Stella. And Cecile, yeah, all the way there from, what is it, Jeffries? I don't know what the weather is like in Jeffries. It's cloudy here with us here in Joburg today.
Cecile doesn't have sound.
I cannot talk, I can only listen. So welcome then. Let's, Vernay. Vernay, from being company secretary and governance and all of that has changed. And what trends are you seeing, let's say, in the corporate world?
I think, hi, thanks, Jasper. And Trevor, thanks for the interesting chat. I'm not a financial markets follower, so your chat was interesting. I found that people who have been successful in their business in the last year, there are more and more people becoming philanthropic and also choosing an alternate lifestyle. And I think it is due to COVID and the networking, as Stella says, that you can do a lot of networking online. You no longer need to have that one-on-one coffee chat. So a lot of the CEOs or entrepreneurs that I've been dealing with are choosing to move out of cities and not have that personal contact, or choosing to move to Europe as soon as they're allowed to get there, and stepping down and allowing other people to run their businesses so they can enjoy what they've got of their lives. And they can still be very involved in their businesses without micromanaging the people underneath them. And I think it's because a lot of people are no longer physically in the office where you have to oversee them and watch what they, or you can't oversee them and watch what they're doing. What they're doing is actually empowering people, and employees are becoming far more, they take ownership of their jobs and they feel responsible for what they're doing. And a lot of the employees are so scared of losing their jobs that they're actually performing at a lot higher level than they were prior to the lockdown, because they want to actually prove that they are worth their salaries, even though they're working from home. And where people used to stand around the water cooler or the coffee machine and have chats, they're now spending real quality time behind their home desks and actually achieving a lot more, which frees up the CEOs and the entrepreneurs. And you see it in Silicon Valley as well, where the big guys are stepping down, stepping away from their companies and allowing other people to run them. And I think that's really a major trend that I'm seeing, is the empowerment of employees and employees actually stepping up to the plate and taking ownership of their jobs. That's what I have to say on the matter.
Right, over to Trevor. I see you've got your screen up, Trevor. You want to take us through some of the slides here?
I do, yeah. Trying to find where to unmute myself. Like I said, I wish I was my 12-year-old daughter. She can do this in an instant. This is just one of those slides as I'm listening to you guys. Please do yourself a favor and go and find it. There it is, talkmarkets.com. The risk of estimating the markets or underestimating the markets. But this goes back through to the 1880s. But what's interesting for me is what happened 1921, because we're entering 2021 here. And, you know, Ivan loves saying the more things change, the more nothing changes. People seem to make the same mistakes over and over again. So we came out of the First World War over there. Let's just turn around and say we've never experienced anything like COVID's effect. That's what people are actually saying. And so you can see that sort of effect down here. But look at the markets. The markets flew from 1929 all the way to 1929. These are average price to earnings ratios. From a low, the stock markets were down to 5 times earnings, and they went to a high of 30 times earnings. Then you could see what actually happened when we dropped the gold standard over here. By the way, this was the end of the Second World War. Interest rates were low, markets started climbing again. We went into a global depression. We dropped the gold standard around here. And then suddenly with technologies, internet, and all sorts of things around the world, look what happened to markets. They flew to a high of 44 times earnings. And then we had 2000, we had the 2008 bubble, dropping all the way down to 4 times earnings, which is an indicator, and interest rates dropping, which is an indicator that, these markets are going to turn at some point. So the savvy people were jumping in here, and this was the market being pumped up to a high here. But look how low these interest rates are. And I think it's going to take a while for these interest rates to turn, which could be the same 10 years that is happening there, which means this thing could really froth up and might even overshoot you. That's the nature of markets, if you are following a market type of trend analysis. But I love the fact that Stella turned around and Vernay talked of social trends, because I think we've got to be aware of what's happening with social trends. And one of the things that I didn't really mention, and I think what Ivan really has identified for me, and that I love what happened for us, is we as a Wisdoms team were interested in taking our Wisdoms product here locally to the global market. And COVID allowed us the opportunity to sit at home and say, listen, in 21 days, we're going to get a product to go out to marketplace. And on top of that came the development of these virtual trade for markets, things that we hadn't played in at all. And I think, Ivan, you can say in something that we didn't do at all, I think there was a banking in terms of value of probably in the region of 450 to 500,000 Rand revenue effectively in new market revenue generation that came out of the UK, a market that we've never been involved. So we're only just scratching the surface of actually reaching out to those markets. But there was something that both Vernay and Stella actually said, which give me cause for concern in what's happening in these network environments. My experience and my thinking is that we think too small in network marketing, not networking, in networking environments, and we should be thinking global scale. That we shouldn't be thinking, Stella, I have a problem with going out to a running group where someone turns around and says, oh, I need a couple of muffins for my birthday party, because that's not going to give you the wealth you require to actually build income. Now, what I'm not demeaning here is your base bread and butter income. That's absolutely critical that you work at that. But I think what we're being presented here with today is the technology, simple Zoom technology to be able to reach the world. And we've got to be designing something that is within our bread and butter capability that we can actually sell to a global market, not just to 2 or 3 people in a running group or 30 people in an old-fashioned networking group where the people just want to have tea and maybe sell 1 or 2 of their little widgets. We've got to be thinking about selling 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 widgets in the marketplace to be part of the game that these youngsters are actually playing. So I'm talking as an old man, and I want to compete against my 12-year-old granddaughter who's out competing me at the moment. I just want to throw that in as my little stir. It's about scale today, and we've got to be thinking about expanding ourselves to scale, and we can do it. Each of us, we mustn't think that we're a small enterprise that only sells to the 2 or 3 aunties or the little old men sitting around their cup of coffee down the road. It's about reaching markets at scale.
Now, who would have thought that in his old days, Trevor would turn into an economist, first of all, with a worldview, and then be passionate about scale and international. So thank you for that input, Trevor. Yeah, let's hear from Dawn. You've had some connectivity problems, and I think the topic today is trends, and is the trend your friend? And you probably have some strong views on that, because your industry, like my industry, have seen how what was the fashion of the day all of a sudden was just wiped off the table. So Dawn, what's your view on is the trend your friend? And what trends are you seeing emerging in, let's say, the whole thing of marketing and display and exhibitions and all of that?
Thank you, Jasper. Apologies for having my battle with the powers that be. It was quite frustrating, but anyway, I managed to get onto the Zoom. Yes, Jasper, well, as everybody does know, and for some that may be new here, our exhibition industry is totally wiped out for the whole of 2020 and 2021, more than likely into 2022 and beyond. Who knows how long we won't be getting exhibitions back up and running. I don't foresee them coming back as strong as they were. I think customers are going to be very wary of spending money on a marketing exercise where they're maybe not going to get their returns, which is the exhibition, and they're very expensive. So having been involved with the Chamber and doing the virtual trade fair, this for me was an amazing opportunity, because even when they do come back, there's definitely a space for hybrid virtual with the physical. And as we've done before, we've tried and tested this amazing platform, which has worked phenomenally. And as Trevor was saying, the global reach was beyond our expectations. Not only would you have a exhibition area where you could put your company across, showing your products and services, it's linked to an e-commerce store so you can do sales. And on top of that, we have a facility to do a guest speaker platform where you can have various experts in the field that you're actually hosting that particular event for, experts putting across the ideas and the view for the future. So plus there's so many other aspects that we can provide with the virtual platform scenario. And also then moving the expo into a virtual mall, which gives the exhibitor an opportunity to put their products and services across for a whole year in an environment where everybody is on the online now. Everybody's looking for items and where to go. And if you have a mall for a specific industry, and that's where I'm looking at targeting for specific industries to have their own malls, because each one to have their own web page takes hours and hours to go and look for. If you can go, if you're looking for a specific industry, whether it's, let's just use, for example, the car industry, if you had a mall where you could go to that one mall and research which car you want to get, it's a much quicker and better, as far as my opinion is, it's more efficient. So that's where I'm looking at targeting, getting people to be more specific instead of having your own web page. Come together as a collective. You could have competitions, you could have guest speakers at the mall as well. So not only do we have the virtual trade fair for exhibitions, you have the mall scenario as well, Jasper.
Thanks, Dawn. I want to just circle back to Trevor's very strong comment on Stella's combination of her exercise with some networking, but I think when she used the word networking, it triggered another thing that Trevor would like to add on. But I think with that, and I think it's not an or situation, it's an and situation. So simultaneously, while people are connecting internationally, and the world has become a little dorpy or a town with all this connectivity, there's also some which leads to the whole reach the masses around the world. But there's also a real thing that was brought to my attention of, I think there's an upsurge or a emergence again of a small town living. And a case in point is on the south of Johannesburg, there's a community called Walkerville. And Walkerville has been, there's mostly people living on little small holdings. And they've probably been blue collar workers, most of them. And they've been severely affected by this COVID last year. So much so that it was almost becoming, call it a social calamity, with everything collapsing. And what has started to happen, and obviously you need drivers to get it happening, but one of my friends shared with me that they have I think a once a week market day where whatever you could produce, whether it's something that you do with your hands in making, can be woodwork, can be knitting, and grow. People then come and they barter. So I give you five of my chickens, but I need that table or that chair. So so my friend said it's a real thing. It has created a whole lot of new stimulus in their economy. People are reaching out to each other. People are becoming little entrepreneurs. So at the same time that I think the trend for shopping centers is under severe pressure because of the COVID and the forced social distancing, I would like to just throw out to all of you, what would you say, is shopping gone like we know it, and will it be only online shopping? And then, yeah, let's start there. Then I've got another question that I want to ask. Trevor, I see you got your screen up again.
Yeah, because I'm having a go at Stella's tea parties and muffins and exercise, and I'm going to have a go at you with your little example. I think we've got to be very aware and critically aware. You become like those that you mix with. And I think what we've got to try and do is get people to recognize that money follows money. And when you're going to have a look at this terrible time of COVID, who battled the most, who had the biggest shocks, Who is concerned the most? It's primarily those people who don't have the money or are over indebted, have huge amount of debt. And let's flip that. And let's not be coy about the fact that South Africa's wealthiest people, but it's not only South Africa's wealthiest people, the wealthiest people in the world, all of their holdings increased with massive value. And so for me, I want people to recognize the importance of positioning ways to actually take advantage of what we have at our fingertips right now. When you mentioned this little community, I was hoping you were going down the road that this little community would get together, they would get some laptops, and they would start thinking about how could we take our little community and take something out to the rest of the world so that we can get involved in this flood of money that is flowing into markets. So I want to flip this thinking and make certain that we don't get stuck at a level which says, I'm going to trade out the little dress that I made and the little crocheted tea basket that I made for something else. It's not to demean that, but I want people to think bigger. Maybe Ivan will come in and soften my approach.
Yeah, I don't know that I have the right kind of acid to do that, because to soften those hard edges, you probably need quite a powerful astringent of some sort. No, but I think Trevor's 100% correct. But by the same token, you've got to look at it from both sides of the coin, and I think people have to survive, as he said. 100% correct. You've got to put bread and butter on the table, but you've got to focus beyond that. And for me, I think that the biggest things that are coming out of this whole last 12 months and are probably going to happen going forward into the next 12 months, it becomes a lot about being really effective. Somebody mentioned efficiency earlier. It's one of my favorite topics, and if you were on my little chat, I think it was last week, I spoke about efficiency and effectiveness, and for me they're two very, very different things. They do go hand in hand, but if you're efficient, you can be doing things right, but the question is, are you doing the right things? And I think that's what this current market is all about, is actually finding out what are the right things to do, not how well you can do the things you're currently doing. Because if you keep on doing the things you've always done and expecting the results to change, that's the first sign of madness. And we've got to get out of this madness, and we've got to be getting into new ways of doing things, more effective ways of doing things, faster ways of doing things. And it doesn't really matter at what level of scale that really is, whether it's at the micro scale or the macro scale. Not many of us have the resources and abilities and the knowledge to operate at macro scale, but it doesn't mean that we can't go bigger than what we're already doing. And I think that's the real key. And I think that's what we've learned out of this last 12 months. I mean, we had this, four-ways chamber. I mean, we were growing organically. We were opening, other little chapters around the place, but that was micro scale stuff. What this has allowed us to do almost from day one, from the beginning of lockdown, as Trevor said earlier, is to suddenly become global. And it was basically overnight, but it wasn't necessarily simple, and it has taken a massive amount of time and effort. So that scale that we've had to get involved in, to gear up, to take advantage of those international opportunities has been huge. We've just done, I think, our 217th Wisdom's chat session since the start of lockdown. We've now, I think, got our 10th or so UK Wisdom's chat session that's up and running. We started that in the week of Christmas. So we weren't sitting around waiting for things to happen. During that week between Christmas and New Year, we started something new. We've Dawn mentioned and Trevor mentioned the virtual trade fairs and conferences that we've been involved in. The ones that we've driven from our perspective have generated over 50 recordings of high quality content. All of this content is up on YouTube. So we've gone massive in terms of scale from where we were. I mean, we had none of this 10 months, 11 months ago, and it's created these opportunities and created the ability for us, and as Dawn was saying, to get into new markets, to start looking at these. come to hate the word pivot, because you know, I don't think it's about pivoting at all. Pivoting to me means you're turning around. You know, and if you're turning around, you're probably going backwards. So it's not about pivoting. It's about accelerating. It's about getting out there, engaging, you know, and becoming truly effective with these opportunities that have been created for us by this pandemic. And you know, it can sometimes be a little overwhelming. I do understand that. And as I say, certainly, as Trevor mentioned, you know, I had a little bit of that myself over the end of November and December, where we put together the BBX Quantum Leap event in the UK that went live on the 17th of December. That was a 24-hour event, over 40 speakers and workshops and interviews and networking sessions, 216 exhibitors on that platform. And as Trevor mentioned, you know, myself personally, along with the help of a number of others, I mean, Alex and Lee and a few others that you guys probably don't know, we did a ton of work over that period for that particular event. As Trevor mentioned, personally, I did 2,887 either web page creations, edits, or updates. You know, that translates to over 60 pages a day for 7 weeks solid. Not a single day's downtime in that period, but it's translated into an opportunity. And Trevor unfortunately got his numbers wrong by half. Not unfortunately, fortunately. So yeah, we have now a trade credit. I mean, Jasper was talking about bartering. You know, bartering is old as humanity. It's been around forever, and there's some very sophisticated systems out there in the market. This particular one created just over £40,000 worth of trade credits for us in the UK. Translates to around about 800,000 rands worth of rand value, which we now have to find ways to unleash and unlock in the UK. But that's a great opportunity, and it came out of this you know, this effort that we've all put in as a team over this period. So you know, I think it's exciting times, but it does mean we need to adapt. It does mean we need to look at you know, where these trends are heading. It does mean we need to operate, I think, faster and more effectively, because this market is not going to slow down. I don't care where you are in the market. I think the speed is going to increase. I think the time savings and the cost savings that this kind of virtual interaction has created allows for that acceleration and actually encourages that acceleration. And that's, for me, the trend that everybody's got to get on. You've got to work out how to maximize the time that you spend in these environments. I think too many people are having these social one-on-ones and casual interactions, which are trending backwards towards the, you know, swap your business card over a cup of coffee nonsense, which you're not going to grow a business like that. You might grow a circle of people that enjoy having coffee with you, but ain't going to put the dollars in your back pocket. And that's one of the things we're pushing really hard, is how do we make money out of this together? You know, it's not me versus you, it's us. You know, let's make this happen together. How do we, you know, collaborate, cooperate, joint venture, strategic alliance, leverage each other's networks, and that needs to be the focus of these kind of sessions. Let's find ways to actually generate money for everybody.
Thanks, Ivan. At this note, I just have to basically bring the meeting to a close, but thank you all for your input. And I think that this kind of chat highlights the importance of us needing one another, and we can be diverse in our observations. There's no right or wrong. And Trevor's 100% right for him. And Stella and the Walker Wall community is 100% right for them, because each one have to deal with the cards that are dealt with at that moment. But as time goes on, we need to emerge from this current unknown and uncertain times. And with that, I also want to say, don't wait for a man or a political party or something to bring you certainty. They are as confused as anyone else. So the way we're going to create certainty is each of us learn how to think for himself. So critical thinking and is becoming very important. And one way of it is surround yourself with critical thinkers like you, so we can challenge each other. So that maybe I'm on the wrong track here and I'm busy with fake news and stuff, and you shoot me out of the water and it hurts, but it it helps me not to waste my time going forward. So please spread the word about our business chat. Next week, our chat will be on security for your home and business. One of our members, Patson Totsetsi, will be the speaker on that and just lead us in. And then we'll all focus on security. And in the week after that, we will have our friend from Platinum Radio, and he'll come and talk to us to say, is radio still relevant in this economy? So we'll have lots of interesting topics and speakers. And if you want to become a speaker yourself and get your material posted on our web for going back for reference, any member who is a member will have access to that material and can go back and reflect on that. The rest of you, even if you're not a member, come and join us. You will have the benefit of the day. You'll have the benefit of the networking of the day. And before you leave, just go to the chat room, and at the bottom right, just click on it and download the chat text for yourself, and then you can refer back and contact the people that you want to contact later. But yes, Ivan, you want to say something?
Sorry, just very quickly, you mentioned the 2 topics for these Friday sessions for the next 2 weeks. I just wanted to let people know next week, Friday, in addition to this session, we've got the Your Partnerships Global South African event at 12 midday. We're getting Scotty Kundal back onto that event as our guest speaker there as well, and I'm sure he'll come back with lots of energy and excitement, as he always does, and great information. And I really encourage everyone to get involved in that network as well, because it is growing globally extremely rapidly. Those guys are out there; they're driving across all the major markets and networks. So it's a great place to get connected and make things happen. So please get involved in that as well.
All right, thank you then all. Have a fantastic week. See you back next week, and come with a friend. And let's let's create our own certainty, and let's create our own economy where things are working, because remember, it doesn't matter what has happened in this last year, you're still the person with all the networks and all the contacts and all the business ideas that you had before. All we now need to do is just find new ways of packaging it and moving it forward. And we believe platforms like this and engaging like we do will move us all a bit closer. So have a blessed week. We'll see you in a week's time.
Bring a friend, make it a trend.
Thanks.